Hey everybody, welcome back to the Youth Bonds podcast. My name is Holden.
I'm Craig.
I am Coleman.
I'm Abigail. And I'm Hannah.
And we are the voice of young conservatives in Alachua County. So today we have a hot topic coming through, and it's feminism. And so I suppose everybody on the panel has some views on it, and I think that the ladies should start first on this one.
Oh, man.
All right, so feminism as an ideology, what do you think about it? What do you think it's done to society, good and bad, or whatnot? And either of you two could start first.
I think that feminism is an interesting topic because it obviously has merits because Title IX is important. I think that a right to vote, equal opportunity, like those type things, obviously super important. Mm-hmm. I think that what the situation that we found ourselves in today, especially, is that the argument has gone too far, at least in my opinion, where you're like, okay, so there's no difference between men and women. So everything, how do I...
So, no differences, I guess, they're probably arguing, for instance, no differences under the law between men and women. That's, the first step, right? But then, what do they go from there?
Well, I feel like it's still okay, so you have, no differences, so that's great. But then also you have, so if we're on a boat that's sinking, are women still supposed to be on the life raft? Do they still want to be, the ones that are saved, and the men are, taken back, the men are still going to be on the boat that go down with the ship? It's those type things. You're okay, you want men and women to be exactly the same, which I think is good under the law. Yes, exactly the same. I don't know. I just think that people get themselves in trouble when then you're still no, well, I don't want to. I want to be saved on the boat. But I don't know.
Yeah. No, most women I know would like to be saved first.
Yes, I think that. Yes, that's a pretty
I think they would
fun.
appreciate it if they're But anyway, anything to add, Coleman, with that?
Yeah, I think maybe that gets into the whole topic of, for instance, topics on the Whatever podcast hotly debate on who pays for a first date?
Yeah.
Is it men or women? And then and then you have hosts saying, well, feminism, if you guys want to be equal, why don't you pay for the first date or something like that, or at least split the bill? And then you get the girls no, I kind of like the guy paying first because it's manly. So they kind of admit it that way too, even if they do admit themselves to be feminists. They still value men taking ownership or responsibility, or offering the courtesy rather of paying for dinner, for instance,
And also taking out the trash.
yeah. Or taking a trash, or fixing the car, or
Yeah, exactly.
mowing the lawn even. Yep. So
Well, paying on the first date is a gender role. So
Yes.
if you say that you want the guy to pay on the first date, you are then allowing yourself to accept the fact that you are accepting at least one gender role, right? So to some degree, you do now accept a gender role. So that is true. But Craig, what do you have to say about that?
Yeah, I think that there's certainly no doubt biological differences between men and women, but we also want to be sure that we're treating both genders equal under the law and that we're being fair, because we don't want to discriminate and we don't want people denied opportunities just because they're a man or a woman. So I think that's important to keep in mind. An interesting question often posed is women on the front lines being in the Air Force. What's your view on this?
I don't know. I think it's an interesting issue. I think it's, for me personally, I think that the draft is also an interesting topic as well, kind of down that whole area, because I think a lot of women are not, I don't know. For me, I think that if a woman can do the job, to the same standard, I think that as long as you're not changing the standard for a woman to be in that same job because of safety things that you have to do, being able to carry somebody out or to do those type things. I think that as long as you're not changing the standard and a woman can do it and if she wants to do it, I think that's a different issue than saying, oh, well, you can't do it because whatever.
Yeah, I agree. The most competent person should get the job. I don't care if you're a man, woman, black, white, yellow,
Yep.
orange,
Exactly.
whatever it is. The most
But
competent
also-
person
yeah.
should get the job.
And don't change the standard.
Right.
Yes.
Man, what doesn't matter, right? Coleman.
Yeah, I agree with that sentiment of like keep the standards where they are, and whoever can meet the standards, regardless of gender, can get that role. Period.
Craig.
Yeah, so tagging along with that, I think an important question would be what feminism means. So, starting with you, Hannah, what does feminism mean to you?
I think there's a lot of, like Abby was saying earlier, I think that there are a lot of, like, really good pieces of feminism from the beginning. Like we mentioned before, the right to vote, Title IX, all of these things, I think they're very important. But I also think that and I think a lot of people agree that, like, gender roles are very important. And so when you go so far on the feminism front, and this is what I don't agree with feminism, it's like we have different, I believe in different gender roles, but that can also depend on the people, you know? And so you have a conversation of, like, I don't know. I guess, so what does feminism mean to me? I would not consider myself a feminist, but I think it's important for, I don't know, the women to have the right to vote and to be able to make a choice on the career that she wants and that kind of thing. But I also like the idea of, like, more traditional gender roles.
Okay.
So
Abby.
I don't know. I feel like feminism is a big topic today, and I
Yeah.
think that there are so many different definitions out there, and I feel like people slap a label and, like, oh yeah, I'm a feminist, but what does that mean to you? And that's what you want to ask as the secondary question, right? So what does feminism mean in 2024? I think that in a lot of ways, it's a very aggressive way of including everyone in the term of women. I think is a big issue today.
Yeah.
And in 2024, because you have even people high in government who don't want to or cannot define what a woman is,
Right.
and still probably consider themselves feminists.
Yeah.
So-
Very ironically, yeah.
It's hard to advocate for something you don't even know what it is.
Or
You can't
yes,
define.
yeah. And so I think that getting back to trying to create the equal opportunity for things and making sure that you have the same rights as people, men and women, voting, like healthcare, like all of those type things. I think that's what feminism should get back to, I guess. Legally under the law to have the same rights.
Got you. Here's the controversial thing that's going to be said today, so just brace yourself. I don't think women should have the right to vote, and I don't think men should either. So I don't think voting's a right. Like, okay, so I know it's going to be taken out of context. Someone could clip it and say, Holden thinks that, whatever. But no, I just don't think voting's a right, but that's kind of like besides the point, I guess. Like, I agree, women, men, equal in the law, whatever. I actually think that today I would rather live than any other point in history because a lot of that has to do with the fact that, like, just because of society, they condemn slavery, they condemn racism, and they condemn like the discrimination amongst of women. And I think that's important, like that we made that, like in the I don't even think it was until like 1970 where women could have a bank account by themselves.
Yeah.
And the contraception for women, it was a great thing, and or whatever, like at least the fact that they could have that without the government telling them that they can't. So with that, I'd say that's like really good. At the same time, like they were saying earlier, it doesn't necessarily mean that, you know, like we definitely have to be able to define what a man and a woman is and whatnot. And I think also families are pretty good for society in general. Like I think it's really hard to argue that 2-parent households don't do very well, because they do. Like it's statistically proven in so many different dimensions that you just have a really hard time arguing that it doesn't. So with that being said, I'd say feminism as a general rule, I think it's great for society. Would I consider myself a feminist? Like in the traditional sense, yes. Like what the word feminism actually means, which means it means equality, I guess, for women, or whatever the Webster's dictionary. I would say that that's probably a good thing. But I guess like if someone comes to me and says I'm a feminist, like I don't know like what that represents anymore, and I think that's a bad thing. But anyway, anything you'd like to add, Craig?
Yeah, it seems as though it's really morphed from what it was 110 years ago for the women having the right to vote and true equal treatment under the law to the patriarchy and quote-unquote rape culture, which is universally agreed as one of the most heinous crimes you can commit.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think that we're looking at a modern movement that wants to just kick men in the teeth, as opposed to what was a good movement for women to be able to vote, to be able to have a bank account, to be able to have their own career. And now a lot of what I hear is all like women don't have kids, kids are oppressive, kids are like men's way of controlling you, so don't have kids, and just stick to your career because that's the only way that you'll be accomplished in life, and being a mother is not a real accomplishment. So some stark differences between what was and what is, unburdened by what can be.
Oh God. I also would like to go off of something that you said also and put in there the fact that like a lot of like the feminism movement today is being like, and it was even 100 years ago, it was like a lot marketing has taken advantage of women and big corporations, and they're like, oh, well, because I did this assignment for one of my classes, and I was learning about like the torches for freedom, and that was like a big women's parade, anyways, the tobacco companies with cigarettes were trying to open up a whole new audience, and they used the women's movement to sell more cigarettes, and like so then you have all this whole host of like health problems because you have now women smoking, because it was just a thing that men did together, and then it was taken on by the feminist movement. Well, the companies took it on as, oh, this is something for women. Women can smoke too. So that was something that was a negative thing that was captured by the feminist movement as, oh yeah, this is making it equal for everyone, which is not necessarily good. Torches for freedom. Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry, continue.
So, here's what I will say. Feminism, what it has always been, it has always been a means for women to gain more political power. Now, that's what it's always been. That's a constant definition. What it should be, in my opinion, is it should stay as a movement where women and men have equal protection and equal opportunity under the law. And that's it from there. What has become today is become a means, I think women sort of being under the mindset that we live in a patriarchy, where men dominate like most of the institutions, etc. And they recognize that, sure, in certain respects, most often due to the fact that men don't have to give birth and men don't have menstrual cycles, they recognize that in order to beat men at their own game, they thought at least they have to become men. That's what feminism is in 2024. So how do they become men? A lot of it is through the use of contraceptives, some of which do more harm than good. Contraceptives is one part of it. I would also say like putting them on the same schedule as men, career path wise, as you talked about in the previous segment, where like as in this age, I mean, in the university level at least, motherhood is not even talked about. Yeah. Women have a specific period. I think the latest is probably like 40 until like fertility really starts to like tank after that. They have a window.
35.
35.
It's like high risk pregnancy.
Okay, there you go. So 35, they have until 35 to get like, if that's their window to, if they ever want to pursue motherhood. So again, I think as you pointed out, the messaging to men and women needs to be different, but right now it's the same. Because in the same, like, in order for you to get farther in your career faster, you have to start at the same time as men are. But then when you're doing that, you're ignoring other paths for women to choose from, and that frankly they may or may not find more fulfilling in the first place. So that's what feminism is in 2024.
Okay. So do you think that feminism has overplayed their hand, so to speak? You can start first.
Yeah, man. Yeah, I think it's definitely gotten out of hand in a lot of things. And I've seen a lot of videos online about women complaining about, and actually it's funny, more liberal women complaining about how if they will they go on a date with a guy and he's more, they are sad about, and mad about the fact that the guys that are kind of what they're looking for is they're more conservative. They're not liberal guys. They don't want to pay for their first. The women don't want to pay for the first date. They want the door open for them, and they're going back to, and they're like, wait a minute, I don't want to work every single day for the rest of my life. Like, that's not really something that I want to do. And so I think it is. I think that women are now waking up more to the reality that we have ourselves in, which is what society is telling us, and now we're like, maybe that's not what I want. So that's my opinion.
I think in a lot of ways, yes. I think that the feminist movement has kind of impacted and spoiled and pushed over into a lot of women in general, and how they can't. No, not they can't. It spoiled it for a lot of women, and so it's the same thing. It's like, okay, so you want the man to be on the right side of the road when you're walking so that they're next to the cars. Bottom line, I think that yes, they have overplayed their hand because they've gone too far. You've gone to the extreme where they're not accepting the fact that women and men are biologically different, and we have different wants and desires out of life. And women have biological clocks, whereas men don't have that same thing. And it's not that you can't have both during, or after you have kids. It's just during that time of life looks different.
So I think it. I don't know. Is it Katie Faust says this, or someone says this? But women in 2024 can have it all, but not all at once.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah.
It needs to be in distinct phases, and I think, as I brought up earlier, the messaging needs to be different for men and women, so that women know their options are at their appropriate age, and then men can continue on like the head first in the career field. But yeah.
Well, and it also it's been that that line of thinking is really benefiting the big fertility business.
Yeah.
And so it's in their best interest to tell women, oh, you can have it all. You can wait until you're in your 30s, mid-30s to have a kid. And IVF and things like that are still available to you. But at what cost?
Yeah. That's a different conversation. But
Yeah.
I'm curious about this. What do you think about birth control and the accessibility of that?
Do you want to start on that?
I think it's interesting. I'm of the opinion that I don't think birth control is healthcare. It shouldn't be lumped in with healthcare. I think that the position that women are put in a lot of times now with doctors, it's pushed on a lot of women. Oh, you have bad acne? Here, take birth control. Oh, you have XYZ. Oh yeah, you can take birth control to fix all of these problems.
Yeah.
When most of the time, or a lot of the time, these situations or these health problems can be fixed by supplements, by fixing health issues, and not just oh yeah, here's a pill to fix it all.
Do you think that the government should outlaw it or something, or not, or no?
Well, I think part of the issue, Holden, is that they're not told the full.
Yeah.
As to my understanding, with the thing of birth control, I'm not a woman, but I've looked a fair amount into what the complaints are about hormonal birth control in the 2020s. The main focus is that, the testimonials rather are, I was a young woman, I had skin issues,
Yeah.
or like anxiety issues, depression, and then instead, I think for some reason the angle is birth control.
Yeah.
What? For what reason? They're not trying to not get pregnant. They have different issues related to, I guess, hormonal imbalances, or perhaps diet issues or sleep issues. But then it's a one pill fits all kind of situation that benefits, big pharma, for instance. So what do I say from here? Yeah, then you get into what are the side effects have been? Some women say they just straight up stop having periods in the first place. Some of them have period dysfunction, period cramps, for instance. So it's, I guess their main point is that some say just straight up ban it, but I think it's just a matter of informed consent
Absolutely.
that not enough women are getting.
Yeah.
Right. That's I think did I put it well for
Yeah.
you? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, Craig.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem to be overprescribed or overused, like we were talking about with the skin issues or anxiety or other related symptoms. It just seems to be the go-to, and it's ultimately this isn't what it's for. Why are we continuing to use it? And we know that corporations, they want women to use it so that they don't have to take maternity leave. That's the goal. It's really a false security for other things, and I think that it just is overused at the end of the day.
I'm grateful for that we have it personally. I think that I think just capitalism is going to create things for society and make it accessible to everybody for cheap and fast, and it doesn't always, it's not always equal, right? There's really bad things like porn or something like that are made really cheap, really fast, really accessible. It creates things abundantly, and they're not always good. It's the same with drugs, right? And they're not always good. I guess conversely, I don't know if it's overprescribed or not. I don't know nearly enough about this to say yes or no to that. I think that overall, women being able to have birth control, I would say, is good. So that if let's say a girl or she doesn't want to have kids, okay, don't have kids and do whatever you want to do. Of course, there's a lot of circumstances where potentially she could be pressured by her peers to not have kids, right, or whatever. Of course, there are some circumstances like that, but by and large, I think as an individual, you should just be able to have the right to do whatever you want to do in that circumstance. If you want birth control, get birth control. That's just me though. Maybe I'm far. Maybe you guys are out on a different path. But anyway, is there any closing thoughts about feminism that anybody would like to add here to the table?
Yeah, I got one. So I see a lot of efforts with corporations, for instance, women in tech, women in oil, women in this or that, specific ad campaigns towards women, and it's mainly in fields that they don't necessarily dominate in, that they're not the majority of the population in. And I think, yeah, we want to make sure that anyone can get the job, but at the end of the day, we should be focusing on who's most qualified, and probably half the time that's going to be a woman, the other half of the time it's going to be a man. So I'm seeing a lot of that, and I'm also seeing a lot of, in the extreme feminist circles, a disdain for men and a condemnation of what men go through. No one is talking about male suicide, right? That's a very underreported issue that is plaguing a lot of people, but it's not talked about because it's, that's a man thing, But I think it is important that it be discussed, in that we look at these issues rather than saying, who cares about men?
Okay.
I will say that I think the likes of, say, Riley Gaines and many other women are doing a great job of now trying to bring back women's rights, especially in sports.
Yeah.
I think that's one of the main battlefront fields, frankly, of women's rights now, to the point where you have biological men competing against women's sports, and to the point where women are getting injured, for like often like permanently, for like just I think taking hits like from balls, projectiles, etc. that they would not have had otherwise had they could be competing against competitors within the same gender. So honestly I see that as a revival of feminism, like the work that they're doing, like Rally Against, like through the Leadership Institute, like that's where organizations at. So I hope that continues. As I do think that feminism has gotten a bad taste, and of course I think now, but I'm glad it's seen, like you're starting to see that the original vigor of feminism is starting to make a revival, specifically within the right. So go ahead. I'll let you two, Hannah, Abby, if you want to have a final word, go ahead.
Yeah, I just think that, like, closing off about feminism, I think that women just need to be, like, not afraid of embracing the roots and traditionalism in a certain sense. Like, if you want to go out, a woman wants to be a doctor, go out and be a doctor. Just count the cost of that on, like, your future. And I think that it's great that women are able to have, like, those jobs, and we can make those decisions to do that. You know, I can go to university and get a degree. I think that's great, get education. But just be able to count the cost of that job and that future for yourself is really important. And just it's not bad to embrace the roots and go back to the roots.
Okay.
I also think that, going back to what you were saying about, like, the men in a lot of cases being demonized, I think that is, especially today, really prevalent within the feminist movement. And I think that you can be feminine and be, at least in the original meaning of the feminist term, being a woman is beautiful, it is important, and it is unique. And because of that, being a man is equally the same on the other side. It's just different. So it's like, it's not one that's better than the other per se. They're different. And so demonizing men, demonizing masculinity is exactly the opposite of what, or you can have both. Both are beautiful in themselves. Not one is better than the other.
Okay. Well, I have to say this. I'm sorry, I can't hold back. Women don't get paid less than men. Like, that doesn't exist. Like, if you understand basic economics, it makes absolutely zero sense why a company would hire a man and deliberately pay him more than a woman. So I just want to, like, clarify that for any idiots watching that actually believe that. But anyway, other than that, I really appreciate the conversation. And if you guys wanted to tune in, we are going to be there. Craig, go ahead and say. You say it better than me.
Thanks everyone so much for watching. We really appreciate it. We upload these segments every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. You can always reach us at youthbombs@alatrorepublicans.com. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks so much.
Thank you.